What's up guys, ZIOVO here, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to make your very own custom thumbnails in Photoshop. After you watch this video, you should be comfortable with the elements of Photoshop and how you can make your very own thumbnails, and in the end you can make products such as this, this, and this. Now, I'm not going to be teaching you how to make a custom thumbnail, just a certain thumbnail set in stone, but rather teach you the fundamentals and components needed to actually make your very own thumbnails, so this way you can make any type of thumbnail you desire. So with that being said, let's get started. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is go ahead and get your document laid out. To do this, just go to File and then New, and make sure that the width and height are set to 1280 by 720 and that the units are in pixels and the background contents are transparent. You can title it whatever you want and leave these settings just the way they are, and then press OK, and your background should be ready. Now the next step is to go ahead and add some background images to the actual thumbnail. So of course what you want to do is go ahead and head down to Google Images, and here you can find a variety of backgrounds that you want. Just make sure the background size is 1280 by 720 or larger. Alright, now I'm going to show you some thumbnail backgrounds that most people use in their videos. A common thing people usually do is just go ahead and search for the color name and then the background like so. And of course you see a ton of backgrounds you could use, but what I like to do is go ahead and search for certain textures. For example, I could search for a blue grunge background. And the grunge background is commonly used in like Call of Duty thumbnails. You've probably seen backgrounds like this before. Yeah, these are quite common. Or even a radio background, that's another one I like to use a lot. So I could search for a blue radio background or a purple radio background. You get the gist of it, and you've probably seen these thumbnail backgrounds before, like this one or this one. They're quite common. And once you find an image you like, you just want to go ahead and click View Image, right click it, Save Image As, and then save it as whatever you want. And after you do that, you should be ready to move on to the next step. The next thing you want to do is go back into Photoshop and actually import that image. To do this, go to File and then Place, and find the location of your image, click on it, and then click Place, and your image should be placed. Now, once it's actually imported, there's quite a few things you can do to it. First of all, you can go ahead and resize it by moving any of these anchor points, but what you want to do is hold Shift and then move the anchor points so that it is sized up proportionally, because if you don't, you can size it out like this and it's not going to be equal. And yeah, so what you're going to do is press Shift and then resize it, and then of course with the select tool or the pointer, you can just move the image around and adjust it to how you see fit. And once you have your actual background image ready to place, just press the check mark and you should be good to go. Now the next thing I like to do is go ahead and add some effect to the actual background image. One thing I like to do is go ahead and right click the layer, go to blending options, and then select color overlay. Now here I like to set the color to black and then change the opacity to 30%. Now what this does is it makes the background image darker so that once I put the text in, the text will stand out a lot more. As you can see, you can obviously change the settings to see what you like best. I think for this one maybe 50 would be best, because you can see the texture but the text will really stand out because of the dark background. Another thing you can do is actually make the color something else other than black. So if I make it red, as you can see, it actually makes the thumbnail background red. So just play around with it, find what you see fits best for your thumbnail, and then use that. So I'm going to make it black and then set it to 50 and then click OK. Another effect I like to do is go ahead and add some blur to the actual background. So if you want to do this, just go to Filter and then Blur and then Motion Blur, and then here you can adjust how blurry you want the image to be. So say you got a picture background, you could add a blur to it so that it's it's blurry and the text stands out more and everything just looks nicer with a blur. In this case, I'm not going to add a blur. I'm just going to leave it the way it is, but I just wanted to show you guys that effect. So once we have our background image ready, what we want to do is go ahead and add some text. So go to the text tool and then just click and type in anything you want. The font I usually use is American Captain, and I set the font size to 70, and then I just type in text, and I make sure it's not this color. I make sure it's white like so. And once you have your text ready, just press the check mark and you should be good to go. Now the next thing you want to do is go ahead and add some effect to the actual text itself. One thing a lot of people do is center their text. So to do that, all you have to do is press Ctrl A to select the thumbnail size, and then click on the text layer, go to Layer, Align Layers Selection, and then Vertical Centers. And this should center the text vertically. And then go ahead and go back to Layer, go to Align Layers Selection once more, and then go to Horizontal Centers, and it should center it horizontally. And once you do that, just press Ctrl D, and your text should be centered. So once you have your text centered, you can add some more effects to it, and to do this, just right click on the layer and go to blending options. And here what a lot of people like to do is add a gradient to it. So as you can see, here you can see there's a bunch of gradients you can choose from. You can do this gradient if you wanted to, what I like to do is go ahead and use the black and white gradient, and then just lower the opacity to 20%. But keep in mind, this is your thumbnail. You can choose what gradient you want to use. I'm just showing you how you can do this. So don't copy me exactly if you don't want to. You can obviously experiment around and find what you like best. So what I do is I set it to 20, and as you can see, it adds a nice metallic look to the actual thumbnail text. Another thing I like to do to my text is go ahead and add a drop shadow to it. And here, once again, you can experiment. I usually set the distance to 0, the spread to 33, and the size to 33, and as you can see, it gives it a nice shadow. And of course, you can experiment with these as well. You can make the shadow bigger and whatnot, and change the size of it. And once you find what you like, just press OK, and your text should be good to go. Now, the final thing we need to do is go ahead and add an image to the actual thumbnail. Now, what you want to do is go to Google Images and then search for any image you want, but make sure the image is a PNG file. This allows it to be transparent so that there isn't a white background when you import it. So I'm going to look for a gaming controller and search for gaming controller PNG. And I like this one a lot, so I'm just going to click view image. And as you can see by the checkered background, it is a PNG image. Just go to view image, right click it, save image as, and then I'm going to save it as game controller. And once it's saved, go back to Photoshop, go back to file, and place that image. So it's right here, game controller. And then what you can do is, of course, tilt it the way you want it to. Once again, press shift and change the size and do all that good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and drag it right here and make the image a lot bigger, and then press the check mark. And then I can also move this text by pressing the text button and then selecting it and then moving it over here. And as you can see, this is how I make my thumbnails. And the final thing you want to do is go ahead and add some effect to the actual image. You can go back to game controller, right click it, go to blending options, and then you can, for example, add a stroke to it if you wanted to, or do the same thing you did to the text and add a drop shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and add a drop shadow and make it the same size as the previous text. And there we go, that's what my thumbnail is going to look like. So that's about it for this video, guys. The final thing you want to do is go ahead and go to File, Save As, and then save your thumbnail as whatever you want, and make sure it's either a JPEG or a PNG, and then you should be good to go. That's about it for this tutorial, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Like I said, this didn't teach you how to make a certain thumbnail, but rather it taught you the fundamentals of making your own custom thumbnails. And of course, everything is preference when it comes to making your own thumbnails. I just showed you the methods I use to make mine, and hopefully you guys can base your thumbnails off of that and maybe learn something new. Let me know if you did. But that's about it for this video, guys. If you liked it, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. And as always, thanks for watching. My name is ZIOVO, and I'm signing out.